All right, all right. Welcome for tuning in. It is Sunday, April the 27th. We just finished a great weekend of the NFL draft. 3 days, glorious draft. Shedeur Sanders had a nice little collapse there. Quite the story. Seemed to take over everything that was going on with the NFL draft. Also had UFL football going on. We're kind of mid-season, halfway. This is week 5. And we'll start with doing out a little recap of the UFL. We had Friday, we had a game that I thought was my 5-unit top special. I don't normally throw those out there, but man, what a game it was. And it was Memphis plus, the line closed at plus 12. Birmingham was a 12-point favorite at home against the Memphis team that looked demoralized last week. And rightfully so. I mean, they had the coaching change midweek, had a short week on Friday last week as well. Couldn't even really find the end zone. They really had a hard time last week. Birmingham has just been getting by the skin of their teeth. And we saw how that kind of played out. So I thought 12 was an extremely generous. I got it 11.5, but 12 at kickoff, I felt really good. And Memphis came out and punched them in the mouth. First drive, throws a dime down the sidelines, score right away. Memphis never looked back. Birmingham got it close, and the game did get close, but and we also went to overtime. So Memphis did come, or Birmingham did come back. But it was quite something, and Memphis pulled it off. So they pulled off the outright win. That was their first win of the season in Birmingham on a road trip. I loved it. I loved the lazy spot, the trap spot. It played out there exponentially. So that was going on with some Friday night UFL, and that segued into our game yesterday, our Saturday UFL game, when we had Michigan at St. Louis. St. Louis was a 2.5-point home dog. Michigan Panthers clearly have what seems to be the MVP quarterback at Bryce Perkins. And Michigan just went down there, and St. Louis was ready for him. Hakeem Butler had been missing the previous games for St. Louis. I felt that was the absolute key to taking the points, taking St. Louis at home. They get a big crowd at home. And with Max Duggan, who's, beat Michigan, played for the national championship, they've had some consistency with Manny Wilkins going on injured reserve. He's out for the season. So we saw, St. Louis handle business at home. They're able to move the football with Sailors. Michigan was able to move the football well. We got a 32-27 win for St. Louis. And they were able to move the football, like I said, get a nice big home win. So that put me at 2-0 on covering the spread. And that is what this channel is all about. It's about betting. It's about gambling. It's about making money. It's about football, mostly. When it's in the season. Thank God for the UFL. Otherwise, it'd be college basketball. And that season's passed, but we've got some great spring football action. And I really enjoy betting these games because the lines are a lot easier for me to read. If you go to my videos on sports betting, I'll explain how I look into those kinds of things. And how not everything is what it seems. Everything when it comes to these lines in this league is all just a reaction. It's a reactionary process, right? Goes back to the game on Friday. Oh, Memphis doesn't have a coach. They can't do anything. It was a team going on the road on a short week with 2 days. What do you expect? I don't care. If that happened in the NFL, you'd be hard-pressed to take them to win that game. But then the team rallies around the new coach. They're kind of at ease. But there's also a point of desperation, right? When you're 0-4, when you're desperate, you're going to do things to try and win the football game and be a little more aggressive. Birmingham, it's the first time I felt Skip Holtz had that squad on cruise control. Those kinds of things are what causes me to make my decisions when it comes to betting, right? Those are the kind of things I look for when I'm watching a football game, regardless of the league, whether it's college football, whether it's the NFL, UFL, Canadian football. I want to see how they did the week before. I want to see if there's any major injuries. That's really all you're kind of looking for in the trenches. Your skill players, you can kind of plug and play a lot more than you can with a quarterback or a midseason coaching change. But nonetheless, that was our game Saturday. It was a great football game Saturday. I was slipping back and forth watching, the draft wrap up. The draft pretty much finished right when that game started. So Friday's game, it was the second round, and going back and forth with that because those are still quality picks in the NFL draft. So I've got 4 viewers. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you so much. This is a new channel, and every Sunday I will be doing a live stream to discuss gambling. You can leave comments, you can leave questions. I mean, I will get to them obviously and check them out and give some responses if you got any questions about anything. But to finish up, well, let's go into Sunday's game. You know, we had a doubleheader this morning. Both games, road teams were the dogs. Um, I really like DC on the money line. Arlington, I felt, has just kind of been skating by. The Renegades have a great defensive line. And there's something about Luis Perez that tells me that there's just not closing there, right? And Bob Stoops is a good coach, and I do like him, and he was great at Oklahoma. But it just felt like it feels stagnant. They feel like a stagnant football team. You know, they make plays, and then if you watch that game, that was the most exciting game today. Tons of points scored. Both teams were going crazy. You know, Arlington led for the majority of the game. And then late in the game, Kalen Blash fumbles the ball. DC gives it right back. But both teams were just in rhythm. And I like the defenders' money line. I thought this one might not cash, but they get the turnover late. There's penalties everywhere. I mean, the game was crazy. The game was crazy. And it was an enjoyable football game. And man, what a performance by Jordan Ta'amu. What a performance by the defenders. What a performance by both teams. And this is why we need spring football, right? I mean, yeah, the NBA playoffs are on, but there are always 7-game stretches. And it's just like, I don't know, just not really my cup of tea. I'm more into the football, into the UFL, and just really, really was able to get up this morning. I'm on Pacific time, for those of you that don't know, and it's 9 a.m. here, and settle in first thing in the morning and watch this game and watch these offenses move. And man, I was happy to get that one. It was a little bit of a sweat bet because it came down to the end, but good job for the defenders. They're rolling. DC is rolling. This is a team that lost their head coach and their defensive coordinator and are still winning big games. This is a big game. This is a quality road win. You know, there's a lot of Texas football team on football on today, and it just was kind of a collapse there. Yeah, the comment says Luis seems to fold on final drives. I agree. I just think he's a steady hand. But at halftime, they showed the cameras a little bit and insider access that you kind of get with the UFL. The coach said, DC's coach said, hey, man, he's going to give you one. And first drive, second half, just threw a lazy try to like desperate heave ho, and it had the defender's feet then in bounds. And had he been set, that would have been a pick six, but they obviously took it off the board. So there's plenty of spring football with these kinds of things when you get into this point of the season where it's going to get a little tougher to cap and to cover these spreads and cover these points. But I felt super confident about my picks this week, and I did go 4-0. And yeah, I'll toot my own horn a little bit. 4-0 is a great way to go. Most of the time when you're betting and you're going against the books, you are only going to hit it like a 55% margin if you're an excellent bettor. And this week, when you bet 1,000, I will take that every single day of the week, ladies and gentlemen. So check my videos out every week. Check my shorts out every day. Turn those notifications on. I put plays up every day for all sports. All sports. It was a great win, like I said, for DC. It was a great football game. I saw some family today. They enjoyed it. It was texted back and forth. It's good stuff. Segues into our Sunday afternoon. We had we had Houston at San Antonio. Houston was 2.5-point dog on the road. San Antonio seemed to get it together last week. Kellen Mond played really well last week. And I still feel that Houston wasn't getting the respect they deserved all year, even with their record and their struggles. The main thing holding Houston back was quarterback play. And since they've switched out of there, they've been elite. That defense is, I think, the best defense in the UFL. They're the best. And Houston is a tough out for anybody. And if they make the playoffs, I think that they've got a chance to pull it out. You can see how the team moves the football as long as Anthony Brown isn't in there. They're going to move the football. So it's a great road win. I had a family event to get to, so I caught bits and pieces of the second half. But Houston dominated. I mean, they took out Kellen Mond and put Jared Guantanamo, pardon if I don't pronounce his name correctly, from Tennessee. But if you know me, you know I don't really care for Tennessee football. And if when they struggle and go along those kinds of sorts, it's really, I really kind of enjoy that. So, but I did thoroughly enjoy football this week. And Houston, man, they just feel like the toughest team. I know that Michigan's got a more well-rounded team with better quarterback play. And Arlington is a steady football team, and Birmingham feels trending down. In Memphis, I don't think they're going to recover. I think their season's kind of a wrap. But we got to look at the point spreads. We got to look and decide how we're going to gauge these games next week. Season did not end today. So we're going to look at the lines. The lines, they might be out now. If not, they'll definitely be out in the morning. And we'll see who's going to play where and who's going to do what where. So great weekend of UFL football. Support it, man. If you know somebody who likes football, just text them and say, check this out. There's a lot of unique stuff and there's a lot of different things that we can all say about spring football, but it is great. It is a great segue for these players that are trying to make something, so that they're balling out. If you're lazy in a spring league, you're telling the NFL, you're telling coaches that you're going through the motions, and film will tell the truth on that. Your effort shows up there all the time. And you learn mental toughness. Like we saw in the Defenders game, I thought that they were going to lose because there was a late personal foul on a turnover. One of the defensive linemen just decides to do a blindside crackback. And it's 15 yards, and the possession stayed with Arlington. Like, DC should not have won that football game today. They simply should not have, but they did. They pulled it out. They pulled it out. They didn't give up. They didn't quit. They finished, and Arlington got, as I like to make the joke, they got tight butthole, man. Like they just panicked, and you can feel tension on the football field even through a camera lens. You can feel when a team's uncomfortable, when the pressure's on, and that's why we watch sports. But also on the spring leagues, that's great, is you've got this lull for football fans who don't care about basketball or care about hockey or care about the early part of the very long spring training. My goodness, baseball takes forever. And it's hard to really get vested in it every single day from April through July, I think. Even the casual fans, like, man, it's a lot of games. I'll catch them here and there if there's nothing on the TV. But hey, we'll go from there. So yeah, it was a great spring weekend. Hakeem Butler, 2 touchdowns. They ran trick plays. I mean, that was just crazy football, crazy games. None of these games were lopsided except for the one, tonight. I mean, the Brahmas just have problems. I mean, I liked them every game that they were in, and this is the first time that I saw that they were just kind of dragging their heels and dragging around. And just couldn't get it going. Couldn't get it going, and I think Houston's going to be the team that goes on that streak. I do. I think that they were stubborn with their quarterback, and it cost them a few games early in the season. And now that they've made the switch, you can see that Houston's trending upward. Birmingham's trending downward. Another thing that I want to talk about with the Birmingham game is, again, everybody was piling on Memphis for their performance the week before. And when I see that, I know to fade the public immediately. But this is Birmingham's third quarterback, okay? So Magoo was out on the first drive of the first game of the series, and Matt Corral's been in there, and then he got injured, and Case Cook is finished out. Well, the problem with whoever's setting these lines is they assumed that because Case Cook has experience in spring ball that he was just going to show up. And it showed in the betting lines. It showed. They just assumed that he was going to step up. There was a reason he was third string. He was on that Philadelphia team in the USFL 2 years ago and had them balling out a little bit, but that's 2 seasons ago. There's not a consistency in that position. And if you don't have consistency in quarterback play, you're not going to be elite. Now, do I think Birmingham can get that straight? Well, if they're sticking with him next week, I think that Skip Holtz will refocus them and get things in order. So it was a good overall week for our bets. Went 4-0. I'm going to take a look at the schedule for next week. So give me just a moment here. But man, and I'll talk about the NFL draft here in a moment as well. But it was a good weekend of spring football. And I hope that this league maintains and we're able to every year because it is quite the segue. It is quite the bridge to hold us over. Man, there's been some good football games, and I think it's getting more traction. It's hard to compete against March Madness. It's difficult. It's difficult to compete against that. I mean, because college basketball is so electric that they're able to. It's really tough, like I said, for them to compete. All right, I am taking a look at let's see here at the games next week. In just a moment here. So I'm trying to pull the schedule. Good. All right, let's take a look here. Where is it at? All right, so week 6. Where did it go? I'm getting week 5 stuff here. Week 5, I'm on week 6. All right. So week 6 looks like May the 2nd. So that's coming up. We got Arlington at St. Louis. That game starts Friday night. That'll be 8 o'clock Eastern kickoff. And then Saturday, we got a noon Eastern kickoff, which I'll enjoy because that's an early kickoff out here. We got Memphis at Houston. Now, this might be a spot. We're going to look at the lines, and we're going to see if Houston gets kind of complacent, right? This might be like Birmingham, Memphis last week. But we can also see that Memphis might have some confidence, or they may be lackluster and just rose up from one game because that happens as well. And then our Sunday doubleheader, we got DC at Michigan and San Antonio at Birmingham. Now, I do think that DC and Michigan will be the game of the week next week. San Antonio at Birmingham. San Antonio, again, fell flat on their face. We're going to see who they start at quarterback. Birmingham, at home. I do like that. I do like Birmingham at home next week. Let me just see if I can pull up some odds real quick. I've got 7 viewers. I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that you guys continue to tune in every week and, ask questions. Feel free to ask questions and, we'll discuss whatever it is you want to discuss. Give me a moment here while I pull this up. Pull up some odds for next week. Maybe quicker if I pull it up on my phone. But yeah, we had some good football. We had some really good football as far as the UFL is concerned. We had some NFL draft news we're about to discuss here as well. So please be a little bit patient here with me while I pull this up. All right, UFL odds next week. So we got Arlington is a 3-point underdog at St. Louis next week. So that's a perfectly capped football game. That is exactly capped what you want it to be at. It's going to be tough. The total's at 42.5. That's a bit high. But the overs have been cashing like crazy. So because that's been happening, we're able to see that Vegas is starting to catch on a little bit. And then our Memphis at Houston, Memphis 5.5 points. I kind of like that. I kind of want to lean that. Money line's at 205. The over's 36.5. So they're telling us there that they know that both these offenses are kind of wonky, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think 5. I think I like the points in that one. DC and Michigan, the game of the week next Sunday. DC is a 2.5-point dog on the road against Michigan. I think Michigan's going to cover there. I do like Michigan getting 3. They're going to be annoyed that they lost that game in St. Louis. I think they're going to come out guns a-blazing. They're going to be punching. And then, so our Sunday afternoon game. Sunday afternoon, I'll answer your question in 1 second there, random guy. But our Sunday night game, San Antonio's getting 9.5 at Birmingham. 9.5. 9.5 in the UFL is a lot of points, man. That is a lot. I think that San Antonio is going to go back to Kellen Mond. I'm going to check the injuries. We're going to see how that goes. It's at minus 115 on the books for a reason. I mean, is Case Cook is going to come out there and just lead the troops and open up a can on them? We'll see. We'll see. I'm not so sure. I think 9.5 is extremely generous. All right, so question pops in the chat here. Who do you think is the UFL MVP front runner right now? I think it's got to be Bryce Perkins, Michigan quarterback. As soon as he goes in there, he is elite. Runs the RPO, big body. He knows when to keep it, makes great decisions. I don't know why Mike Nolan takes him out of the football game. I don't know why he does it. Because when he does it, mistakes happen. When he does it, that team suffers, man. That team just suffers. But overall, I think that he's the front runner for the MVP. I do think that Saylor is in the conversation as well. I think if Hakeem Butler had played the full season, he'd be lights out. There's no question. But I think it's Perkins, and I don't think anybody else is really going to be in the race. So this is a good question. But with that being said, I'm going to kind of wrap up the UFL talk, and let's talk NFL draft. I know I'll probably lose some viewers, some of you guys don't like the NFL, but hear me out. Draft night was crazy, right? Shedeur Sanders, supposed to be a top 10 pick, possibly. First round for sure. This is a quarterback needy league. There are quarterback needy teams. Pittsburgh. That's one that comes to mind. Cleveland with Deshaun Watson. They need a quarterback. The Raiders. Who do they got tossing the rock? We still don't really know what they're doing there. I mean, you can get at least first round capital in that sense. So it was a bit surprising to see Shedeur Sanders fall. It was really surprising to see him fall past the third. I mean, the man can throw the football deep. He makes plays. A lot of speculation about his behavior and his problems. And I think that when your father is Deion Sanders and you've got the mouth that you mouth, and the things that he said hasn't exactly helped his son's case for an NFL team to draft him. Followed up with his approach. I mean, his own interviews, if you look on the stuff that I posted, the shorts, his behavior, his attitude, it hasn't exactly been embracing. It's not exactly something that teams are going to be willing to spend top capital on. When you're a quarterback, you are the captain, man. You have to take charge. You have to be responsible. It's not just a position you play. Quarterback is not just a position you play. You play wide out. You play running back. You play defensive back. You don't just play quarterback. You're responsible for the defense. You're responsible for the checks. You're responsible for the substitutions, the time, getting the plays, explaining the plays. You are the leader. You are in charge of what's going on there. So if he's went on these interviews and he's been kind of thick-headed, and we don't know, everything that gets put on the internet is true, right? Everything that gets out there creates a bad image, and I think that may have been what tanked his draft stock. I mean, there are teams, and then there's a lot of speculation about teams that want to say, well, there's this player that wants to, that has these red flags. We take him in the first round, whatever, and that's true. But I don't think that Shedeur Sanders, none of those quarterbacks, like everybody likes to talk about Johnny Football. It was a risky pick for the Browns then. It really was. But Johnny Football won the Heisman. Johnny Football went to Alabama and won. Johnny Football went to the bowl game and crushed Oklahoma. Like he's was making plays, and a lot of his stuff was hidden. None of these first round talents, and a lot of people want to say, well, Eli Manning tried to pull this with his father, and there's truth to that. However, Archie Manning, I don't recall, ever went on the air and said, we're not going to play for a handful of teams. I think they were just adamant about San Diego and handled it with a different kind of tact, right? And that trade worked out for the Giants and, Philip Rivers. That's a trade that worked out for both teams, even though San Diego never won a championship. I mean, Philip Rivers had a great career there. But nonetheless, we're getting off this NFL draft. Line movers, thank you for the comment. I appreciate that. When you're a quarterback and a team isn't willing to invest in you in round one, they're telling you that you're going to get the keys of the franchise. It's such an important position that teams can't afford, in my opinion, to roll the dice at this position. And when teams do it, man, they better be right, because it costs jobs, it costs careers, it costs other teammates to suffer. They're not getting the ball, creates dissent. It's the most special position in sports, with the catcher being second, in my opinion, because you're directing a baseball team. So Shedeur, I think he fell because of that. I mean, some of the stories are crazy from what he had an entourage or this and that. Like that turns off teams. That turns people off. You can't just arrive. I don't care what league it is, but specifically a quarterback. And when you look at who went number one overall with Cam Ward, you look at Cam Ward's story. Cam Ward was a 0-star recruit. 0 stars. Worked his ass off. Got transferred to Miami from Troy. All about business. All about football. All about proving himself. All about winning. When he scores, he does his little dance or something like this. You should celebrate when you score touchdowns. I don't care what anybody says. You should enjoy that. Unless you're down 4 or 5 scores, then you're not really doing it. But he had Miami on the cusp of a playoff. He had comebacks, worked hard, make his team better, right? I think the Titans hit a grand slam. And I'm going on camera. I think that within 3 seasons, Cam Ward's going to be one of the most elite quarterbacks in the league. I just feel it. Was it weird to take Gabriel over Sanders? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And I don't know. Teams do lots of weird things like that. But Cam Ward, size, able to read a defense, able to move the football, great decision making, doesn't panic, can run if you need to, anticipation off the charts. I think he was the best quarterback to take, and I think that there was a whole separate tier from him between any other quarterbacks in the drafts. For those of you that don't know me, they're tuning in. I'm a huge Alabama fan. You see the Alabama hat over there. There's another one there. And Jalen Milroe is definitely one of the most polarizing quarterbacks we've had there. He went in the 3rd round to Seattle. And I was thinking about this, and I was having a discussion with some friends today. And Jalen Milroe has the potential to be one of the craziest, most lethal picks ever because he's so big. Imagine a wildcat running back, but he's not a running back. I got to be clear when I say that, because he's got a cannon. And he played quarterback, and he played it well. I mean, he struggled a little bit in the second half of the season, but this man took Alabama to a playoff, 2 wins over Georgia. I mean, how many quarterbacks? I don't believe quarterback stats are a winning stat, but electric, right? And when he runs, he's the first quarterback. This is how I describe him, right? When you look at quarterbacks that can run, like Jaden Daniels, and Lamar Jackson, and Justin Fields, and they're kind of thin. Jalen Milroe is 225 pounds, man. Like he just, and he's so elusive with his feet. I can throw it a million miles. And Coach Saban said he can make the big play, but he's got to minimize his mistakes. And I think that with him going to a situation in Seattle where he doesn't have to get the ball right away, with a new coach, excuse me, and a new staff, well, it's their 2nd year, and he can sit there and learn from Sam Darnold, who's a vet, who also had a very rocky start to his career, but he got out of New York and recovered nicely. Had a fantastic season last year. I don't care what anybody says. Sam Darnold had a great season last year, and that's why the Seahawks paid him money. I think Jalen Milroe is in a position to at least where he can sit for at least 1 season, at least. And if he learns the intricacies of an NFL offense, and he's a smart kid and a good kid, and he's not a troublemaker, he's not a menace to his football team, I think that he's got the potential to be one of the best. I mean, he will be can't-miss football. And man, the Seattle Seahawks drafted players that I absolutely think are fantastic. I like Milroe. Man, they drafted that wide receiver from Colorado State, Torrey Horton. They drafted Ricky White from UNLV. Those guys are playmakers. I know they're in smaller conferences out here in the Mountain West, but somebody did their homework up there in Seattle to draft the way they draft. I mean, that was just I thought they had the best draft of the night. I thought the Bears drafted really well. I thought Chicago drafted immaculately well. especially the first pick when they took Colston Loveland. Now, drafting a tight end in the top 10 is crazy business. I mean, they did it with Kyle Pitts down in Atlanta, who's a monster of a human being. Kyle Pitts is a big man, and I think that he's just been poorly utilized. And if somebody got their hands on him and really, I think the Chiefs should go all in and get that guy next year. I do. But that's neither here nor there. So the Bears took Colston Loveland, big boy from Michigan, big playmaker. I mean, I was reading a little bit on him. He doesn't have a whole lot of reps, but that offense that Michigan runs is more run heavy. It's not really deep threats, but man, he is big and gets open. And I'm not a Bears fan, but I am intrigued by what this season is going to bring in, because not only did they draft Colston Loveland, then they drafted Luther Burden. They drafted offensive linemen. They signed Joe Thuney, who I think is a little bit past his prime, but they've definitely upgraded the offensive line. They didn't make any major moves at running back, but by drafting Luther Burden, you've now got a starting offense of Romo Dunze, who I think will be okay, Luther Burden, who I think was the wide receiver too, behind Ted McMillan. I thought Luther Burden was the second best prospect. I was amazed he fell out of the first. I really wanted the Packers to take him, but they didn't. So he goes to Chicago in the second round early. So they've got Caleb Williams, who does make big throws. He can get the ball down the field. I think he got a little rattled last year because he just had no time last season. I mean, everybody was in his face. Coaching change in your rookie year is hard, just like Bryce Young went through. I mean, the Bears weren't as atrocious as those Panthers teams, but they had injuries. Keenan Allen's 100 years old. I don't think Cole Kmet is worth all the money they're paying him. And the biggest question mark really for me for the Bears is Ben Johnson. And yeah, I was surprised the Texans passed it, but I was surprised everybody passed up on Luther Burden. That was just a big shock. That was a wide receiver needing team. I thought somebody would trade up and get him. I really did. Dude's got wheels. So we're going to see how Ben Johnson, everybody loves Ben Johnson, right? Always this wizard. He comes up with all these great plays in Detroit. Well, the Bears were desperate for a head coach. And the fans were screaming about Matt Eberflus. And when I look at how the Bears ended last season, everybody wants to blame Eberflus. Matt Eberflus did not give up that Hail Mary. He did. He just did. Now, he screwed up the game against Detroit, and that cost him his job on Thanksgiving because the Bears had a timeout, and they should have went out there and finished it off. But it seems like this is a cyclical abuse for Chicago fans, because it's a rotational cycle of constantly bringing in a new coach and constantly thinking this is the answer and that's the answer and this and that. And I will give them credit for this. With their Bryce Young trade, when they traded to Carolina and Carolina only got Bryce Young, those picks have turned into some amazing playmakers. And now they got the coach who ran this offense in Detroit. Excuse me one second. Mouth is a little dry. So they've got Ben Johnson, who's running all these crafty plays in Detroit, right? They're running these playground plays, and they got tackles that are eligible, and they're running these fake fumbles and all this stuff and this and that. Well, Ben Johnson, and he may see this one day, and the Bears may see this, and they may rub it in my face, but two things. First of all, Chicago, you don't have the proven personnel yet to prove that you could run this kind of offense. You just don't. And secondly, you've never been a head coach of an NFL football team. You were under Dan Campbell, as some people affectionately call him Dan Gamble because he's super aggressive. We're going to see how you manage situational football. We're going to see how you manage the clock. We're going to see how you manage your quarterback, right? You're going to have some grace being a first-year coach, and you've got all these premier players in your team. But we're going to see how you handle it, and I'm interested to see how he does it. He's not going in a weaker division. The NFC North is loaded. It is an absolute elite conference or elite division in the NFC. There's no breaks. There's no lousy teams. So You're just going to arrive in that media market, and I lived in that area for 30 years. You're the only ticket in town. How are you going to handle scrutiny after loss? How are you going to handle your players if they this and that? I mean, right now you've got everything in your favor, but what are you going to do? You don't have, proven guys yet. You've got young football team. And the only coach that I've seen that fits kind of the X's and O's that goes on to be a head coach and is successful is Sean McVay. Josh McDaniels is the X's and O's genius, absolute unit. He's an X's and O's pro. But when Josh McDaniels tries to run a football team, it's a wreck. It's an absolute disaster because some people aren't personable. And usually those X's and O's offensively, specifically offensive, I don't want to say nerds, but these offensive people, I just haven't seen the case where they're able to handle this kind of stuff. So we'll see. I don't think the Bears have a winning season yet. I think they make some exciting plays, and I think that their future's bright. But it's all got to come together, and usually it doesn't come together under week one. It usually does in the NFL. I mean, you've got a quarterback, you've really got to calm down, and your running game isn't exactly – it's not there. So you've already had DeAndre Swift in Detroit. Now you've got him again in Chicago. You wrote him off, so now you got to mend that relationship, right? People don't remember this. Who's your leader? Is Caleb Williams your leader? There's no veteran leadership. Is Joe Thuney going to be the leader of the offense? I think defensively they'll be fine. I mean, their secondary is great. Their linebackers are suitable. You're not going to wear them out. But I think the Bears are just another year away. This doesn't feel gloom and doom like last year for them, but I don't think that they just arrive. I don't think that there's a situation like Dan Quinn, where Dan Quinn went to Washington and took them a game away from the Super Bowl. But that's my takeaway on the Bears draft. A couple of draft notes. We got lots of running backs, lots of defensive linemen went in this draft. I mean, it was a defensive heavy draft, and it was a good draft. It was a good draft. All around, I didn't feel that any teams really fumbled the draft. 49ers went and got a bunch of boring players, but that's the kind of – when there's no quarterback-heavy class or no major skill players, when it's your time to pick, then you need to build your team with those kind of years, right? I mean, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders and those guys, there's really not an elite quarterback besides Cam. But I do think that Cleveland – I mean, I know they took two quarterbacks, but they drafted well. Cleveland, Nick Chubb is out of there. So I think Cleveland, right? So we got a Deshaun Watson situation where he's hurt. He's got that crazy contract. We don't know what's going to go on with him, right? So I think that they did some smart things. First they got Mason Graham, so they got a beast to go with Miles. I think Cleveland's defensive front is going to be a nightmare. I think that they're going to give Lamar Jackson fits. Myles Garrett, Mason Graham, defense looks good. They replaced Joker, by drafting a linebacker. They drafted two running backs. I mean, Quinshon Judkins is Ohio State hero, won the championship. He can move the ball. He is a future three-down back. They're not going to bring back Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford, Judkins is better. I love Jerome Ford. He went to Alabama, and then he transferred to Cincinnati. He's a very good player. I do like Jerome Ford a lot. But I think Cleveland drafting two running backs. They drafted Dylan Sampson from Tennessee, who's pretty good. So I think that they're putting pieces around. And then they trade up in the fifth. I think that they wanted Shedeur initially, and I think that they're quietly thrilled that they got him at a discount. And their quarterback situation, like Dylan Gabriel, I mean, Joe Flacco won't be there after this year. And I think that they're going to cut Kenny Pickett. So I do think that Cleveland was smart about their draft. Even though they're not getting everything they want, I do think they were smart about their draft. I think Stefanski's a good coach. I mean, he had Flacco take them to the playoffs. Joe Flacco, only a few years younger than I am, and he got that team to the postseason. So great defense does them justice. And I think the Browns next year, we're going to see what happens with Deshaun Watson. Either he can come back and be that rip-roaring quarterback he was 5 years ago, or he's out. The contract money is gone. And they'll just have to start fresh. And I think that out of the five quarterbacks that they have on the roster, I think Flacco will start at the beginning of the year. And then I think Shedeur, I do think based on how the season plays out, if the Browns have a rough season, I think Shedeur Sanders will get reps towards the end of the season. I do think Cleveland's gonna, they're on their way up. I think that it's just, man, they're a unique football team with their situation. Again, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about risking so much on a quarterback, and they risked everything on him. I mean, let's talk about it for a minute. When Deshaun Watson was disgruntled in Houston, first of all, then these charges hit. So he's got all this mess going on, and then he comes out. He gets it takes all that time off, and he comes out flat. He gets hurt, and his contract is fully guaranteed. He's the only quarterback to get that fully guaranteed deal. And it's just been a guaranteed pile of shit. Pardon my language, a guaranteed pile of garbage. He's just been awful. I mean, nobody in the league seems to like him. He seems aloof. He's kind of got the Aaron Rodgers vibe without the greatness. And I think that if he'd gone out there and performed great, that's the cure all. Winning cures all for everything, man. So we'll see what Cleveland does. The Chargers, oh man, Omarion Hampton is going to take that job. I mean, Greg Roman's offense with Jim Harbaugh again, it's like those old 49ers teams. Najee Harris is there on that 1 year, like $6 million deal. I think that job gets taken from Najee. I mean, I think Omarion Hampton's going to go in there and be a bull. I think he's just going to go in there, and Harbaugh's just notorious for running the football. That's all he did at Michigan. I think that he's going to be running the ball like 60% of the time. And I do think that they've got Ladd McConkey. They've got Justin Herbert. He's a veteran. These guys are veterans now. But I'm going to go on a limb here, and I think that Quentin Johnston has a good season. Now, he had a lot of drops, but QJ had a lot of touchdowns too. And what you did the previous year doesn't necessarily roll over. So I think he's going to get his hands on the football, and I think that QJ is going to be great. I think he's going to be a good player. He gets separation. He's big. He's fast. He scored touchdowns. There's no rookie jitters. And I'm pulling for him. A couple other, draft notes about, they want to talk about Shedeur Sanders. How about Quinn Ewers? Now, I'm actually kind of a football nerd, and I did watch the draft on Saturday. And, I'm curious to see where Alabama players go, admittingly, but I also want to see where some other players go. And Quinn Ewers, they showed him on ABC when he got drafted in tears, and I saw him. His family was trying to comfort him. He's going to a situation where he's behind Tua in Miami, and he looked devastated. They didn't look like tears of joy, like, oh my God, I got drafted. They look like tears of pain. And I think that Quinn came back this year and had some injury issues, and it affected his play. Texas doesn't run a full pro-style offense, but he's still the starter and led that team to back-to-back playoff games. He threw that game-winning touchdown against Arizona State in the playoff. Quinn Ewers, I think, just got something's wrong with it. He shouldn't have fell that far. I really thought the Raiders were going to reach in and snatch him. I don't think that he's this bad quarterback that people think he is. A lot of people like to rate quarterbacks. Oh, he, $1 million armor. He's got to throw it deep all the time. Well, you have to make good decisions. And I think Texas they were flat a few times, but I don't think he was 7th round talent. I think that he was 3rd round, 4th round pick. I mean, he wasn't 1st round, but I think that falling to the 7th, and I'm curious to see what he does in Miami, because I love Tua. If you know me, I'm a Tua fan, and I don't care what kind of backlash I get. That's the best quarterback I've seen in Alabama make accurate throws. I don't care how they look. I don't care what any of y'all say. Tua is my guy. But he is injury prone. He's been injury prone since Alabama, and I think that he might be able to go in there and do some things. I saw Des Bryant was like, he's Dan Marino 2.0. Well, Des, you're amazing, but let's just hold off on that 2.0 just a minute. So, but overall, it was a good draft. I didn't think any team really fumbled the draft. A lot of people thought, maybe the biggest fumble of the draft, there's 2 picks I did not like. I did not like RJ Harvey going to Denver. First of all, you got Audric Estime, who is bigger, younger, and faster. You just drafted a guy who is a 6-year senior. Newsflash. All right. I'm not an NFL scout, but I'm very opinionated on this. If you're in a skill position like a receiver or running back, specifically those two, you have to be an early declare to be great in the league. Or you can be just a senior. But if you go fifth year, senior, 6 year, get out of here. You're taking way too long to prove that you're good. I mean, it is a very rare circumstance to where you just show up. Yeah, you should have gone third or fourth round. I agree with that. Yeah. But drafting RJ Harvey, I was not a fan of that for the Broncos. They have a big guy in Estime who breaks tackles. You already got a guy. So I felt that Denver reached there. I mean, Sean Payton, he's kind of he's a great coach and he draws up schemes and stuff like that. But man, RJ Harvey, I just thought he was a bad pick. And I thought that New Orleans, man, Tyler Shuck, again, you're 25, bro. Like quarterback, I'll give you a little more leniency on you as a quarterback if you're going later in age because you've got reps. Or there may be an injury history, but when you're that old, like Brandon Weeden had one good year, Tyler Shuck hasn't even had a year like Brandon Weeden. Brandon Weeden practically had Oklahoma State in the championship. Had they not lost that game to Iowa State. There's Brandon Weeden and Des Bryant. I mean, that's how long ago he played. But when you're that old in these important positions and you're coming out late, I'm gonna pass on you. When I watch the Senior Bowl, like if you're over 23, and you just can't be, in my opinion, to break out. Like Tyler Shuck is older than Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts has been in the league 4 years now. They're about to pick up his option. But yeah, Barron was a good pick. I'm not saying that any of these teams fumbled the draft. I'm just saying there were a few questionable picks. The Lions. I thought the Lions made the worst pick of the draft, and I'm not saying that because I like the Green Bay Packers. But when they picked Tesla from Arkansas, I think that guy's a special teamer. I mean, no, and I watch SEC football religiously. For those of you that know me, it's my haven. I love it. I love Alabama football. And I don't dog on SEC players. There's an inside text I have with some of my friends that say it just means more, and they know who they are. But Tesla, I mean, there was just so many better options. I would have picked Isaiah Bond, who didn't even go drafted, over Tesla, and then they got him in the third round. Like, it was just, I don't know. I thought that was kind of a questionable pick. The Lions fans, they trust they trust Brad, and they trust what they're doing up there. And it's hard to argue with their results. I mean, they won 15 games. They won 15 games last year, and Ben Johnson cost them that game. Nobody wants to hear it. That's what I'm saying with Chicago. Be careful. Be careful. You can't have an NFC divisional home game and you're losing and have wideouts throwing passes. You're desperate. Like, that's a tell. That's a tell. You weren't efficient enough offensively to where you're trying to do plays you don't run through the whole lot of stuff like that. So NFL draft, I thought overall was a good draft. I love draft coverage. I like seeing where these players go. I like to see. It's really the best, like most intimate way to see what a team's thinking without watching something like Hard Knocks. And even Hard Knocks is restricted. And in this case, you just kind of see where a team's feeling. I'm a Packer fan. I wasn't the biggest fan of Matthew Golden. Wasn't the biggest fan of Matthew Golden, but he, he's a good player. I thought he was second round talent. I would have taken Luther Burden in the first round over him, but we'll see. The Packers have receiving holes they led the league with 25 drops. Savion Williams, we'll see how he's going from there. I mean, I think he's more of like a third receiver, but for third round talent, we'll go from there. But Golden, he can kind of just take off and, yeah, he is fast. I agree. He is fast for sure. We'll see what the Packers do. I mean, I think Jordan Love was hurt a lot of the year last year. I think that's what kind of slowed them down. They still got in the playoffs, so. But the Packers, I thought I was screaming for them to take a corner, and they didn't till the end of the draft. But Packers have had enough success to where I can't really question too much. And I thought some of these unsigned free agents, Seth McLaughlin went to Cincinnati. Cincinnati went defense. Absolute. Starting to get some spammers in here now. absolute beast. The Bears had the best draft. I think, yeah, Bears had a really good draft. Seattle had a really good draft. Saints had the most head scratching draft. And overall, it was good. And we'll just, we'll wrap up with UFL, finishing off the second half of the season. And we're going to see how it goes from there. We're just going to see how the UFL plays out. That'll hold us off till July. And then 6 to 8 weeks after that, it'll be absolute stuff here. Hang on just a moment. I got some I got some spammers in here. Why they do that shit. So I'm just scrolling through the comments here. Yeah, the Bears had the best draft. Aaron was a good pick. Overall, it was pretty good. Justin Fields weighs over 225. I wasn't sure. He's a big guy, but like when you talk about, like I said with Milroe, I mean, Milroe just like, I think Jalen Milroe can like tuck the ball, hold it, and he would be a quarterback to where I wouldn't absolutely just worry about him being hurt if he takes a hit. You know what I mean? I think that I think that that's such a big firework, but if you do it in the third round and your coaching staff believes in you, God bless him. I hope he does great. He was good for Alabama. When Saban left, he stayed. Like, Alabama fans owe him that gratitude for sticking around in a tumultuous situation. So overall, good weekend of football. We'll have football next weekend. The draft was amazing. Just trying to think before I sign up here if there was any kind of other crazy picks. I mean, we'll talk one more. New York Giants, right? I mean, trading into the first round to get Jackson Dart. Now, I don't know if that was worth it. Jackson Dart, at Ole Miss, if you look at his touchdowns, they were kind of against weaker competition, but did beat Georgia. So it's just like, it's those kind of things. You can't lose to Kentucky and then go over Georgia. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy how that kind of stuff happens. But it is what it is. Go Liberty Lions. That's right, Cousin Jed. Go Liberty Lions. I love to hear it. But the Giants had a good draft. The Jets had, I thought they were thinking about trading Breece Hall. No major player trades this draft. I thought Will Levis might go to Pittsburgh. Thought that might have happened. And I think the final hole is like, who are the Raiders going to do at quarterback? Like, what are they going to do? They drafted back-to-back players from the FCS that were second team, honorable mention. Like, we'll see. Tom Brady's in football operations there, so you got to kind of put your hands back and see how he is as an evaluator of talent. And just because you're an elite player doesn't mean that you're an elite evaluator of talent. You can just look at Michael Jordan, how he's run his team. My God, like, if you don't have dogs like you, we'll see. I think that the Steelers, I think one of two things is going to happen. I think that Aaron Rodgers is either going to go there, or I think that they're going to work out something for Kirk Cousins. And with the Raiders, it could be kind of the same thing. You can't play in this league. You can't compete in this league without quarterback play. You just cannot do it. But with that being said, it was a great draft. Besides the spammers, I have 10 viewers. So thank you so much for joining me. Every Sunday after UFL, I had an event this weekend. I would have had this stream earlier. Please watch my shorts. My shorts every day. I put up a little video with a little music like everybody else does, with just just let it play for the 15 seconds. That's how I get my algorithm. I hope to be one-time monetized and be able to do this because I love to talk sports. I love to talk spring football, Canadian football. I love college football. Just wait till that comes around. The NFL, dynasty trades, anything when it comes to football. That's my wheelhouse. I do like to watch college basketball and that. But every Sunday, I'll be doing these during Sunday Night Football. I know I probably won't have as many viewers, but maybe I'll change the time in the fall. But it's just going to be a great weekend. Tune in next week, and please watch shorts. Please let them play for 15 seconds. Like, subscribe, tell a friend. Hey, this guy likes to talk sports, and he is a successful gambler. And that's what I do. And by playing dynasty football, fantasy football a little bit, and knowing how I'm going to bet and understanding the psychology of football, that is what made me a successful bettor. I'm not giving you any bull. Like, I am a successful bettor. I've been able to do things because of that. And I just hope you guys show up next week. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it so much, and I will see you next week. Thanks.